And welcome to another episode of Experts Speak. I'm Michael DeLon. Today I'm talking with Mark Hayward. Mark, thank you for spending some time with me today.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on your show.
You are quite welcome. Mark and I it's going to be a great conversation, so you just need to hang around and buckle your seatbelts here. Mark is a entrepreneur. He is a co-founder of Podcast Introductions, which is what we're going to be talking about, how to use podcasting to really bolster your business. And he's also the host of a weekly podcast, Absolute Business Mindset. And he works with entrepreneurs really around the world, mostly in the U.S. And we're going to talk about podcasting because, well, Mark and I are biased. We really love podcasting. We think it's important. And we believe that you can actually use it to grow your influence, grow your relationships, but really grow your revenue as a business owner. And so that's what we're going to be talking about. So, Mark, as we dive into that conversation, tell me, how in the world did you get doing what you're doing today?
So I started my show. It's actually been rebranded a little while ago called Business Growth Talks. So
Awesome.
everyone who's looking for it, go onto Spotify, go onto Apple, go and look for Business Growth Talks. The Absolute Business Mindset was the previous iteration of it. So I started it because I was working in enterprise. I was working in a corporate environment, and they were asking me to do more speaking gigs. So I was expected to talk in front of industry leaders and sort of clients and things like that. And I really found it was a struggle, although time ago, it was 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I love podcasts. I love audiobooks. I'm going to record. I'm going to get a microphone. I'm going to record it and I'm going to publish it. And it was 10, 15-minute episodes. And it just made me be able to communicate better. I'd research something to do with business and then I'd record it. And it was a way of me getting more natural and finding your voice is sometimes what they describe it. And so I started the show. And then after about a year and so for 13, 14 months, I started interviewing people. And then the iteration of the show started to evolve into very much more than just me talking, but me interviewing and getting to know people from a networking perspective, but equally also getting their stories, understanding their inspiration, understanding how they've grown their businesses, what the hints, tips, and strategies they've got for growing that business. And during that process, I interviewed a guy called George McGarren, and he's now my business partner for Podcast Introduction.
Okay.
So we are literally living proof that businesses, partnerships, collaborations can happen by being a podcast guest.
Yeah.
And so we started that business 5 years ago, and we predominantly work with business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs about founder-led businesses often that are looking to grow their business and using podcast guesting, a PR aspect of it, to be able to go on the show and be able to promote their product or service.
Awesome. And thank you for that. That's a great background. And yeah, podcasting is a phenomenal way. If you do a lot of networking, it's funny. Go to networking events, whether they're online or in person. And so many times it feels like speed dating, right? Hi, my name's Michael. Here's my stuff. Hi, my name's Mike. And it's like, can you just slow that down a bit? Because I want to build a relationship with you, but we don't have that kind of time. So how about, hey, Mark, I'm really intrigued by what you're doing. I got a podcast. Why don't you come on my podcast? We'll spend 20, 30 minutes together and just see how that flows out. Would that be okay? I'm telling you, almost 100% people are going to say, well, yeah, that'd be really cool.
Well, you're flattering them. You're sort of leaning into their ego that they've got something interesting to say. And in most cases, look, Michael, you've had some people, I'm sure, on your show that have not been great fits. We've all had them. I don't have that many, I
That's
must
right.
admit, but I have had a few that I've had to do. But yeah, absolutely. You're leaning into their expertise and having them on the show is a great way of showing respect to what they are, their
Yes.
skill set, their expertise, their experience, and their knowledges. So it's a great way of being able to network and grow relationships by having them on people's shows. 100%.
Yeah. So how do you guys work with your company work with business owners on helping them, I guess, identify podcasts that they can get invited in onto? Is that right?
No,
Explain a
so
little
we
bit more
we
about
kind of
your
pitch them. Yeah. So okay, the process is we spend time with our new clients and they spend time with me and we work out their key messages, stories that would be impactful, calls to action, repurposing content, rapport with host, all these things that are fundamentals, and we work with them and it let them understand how to be ready and primed to be on the show. And we then do an element of, like, it's a PR aspect of our service. So that is, we find the niche shows that they want to be on, whether it's business, whether it's marketing, whether it's finance, whether it's tech, SaaS, whatever it is. And we then find, we upload their bio into our directory, which then looks at shows globally and then says, if it was for you, Michael, we've got someone, we've got a show that's to do with marketing and books and publishing. We think you'd be a great fit. We then outreach to the podcaster and say, we have Michael, we think he'd be a great guest on your show. Would you like him to be a guest on your show? When they say yes, we then connect them and they then set the recording up. And in essence, it's a pitch element. And that's why the bio that we create for them is really important, because it has to talk about those things that are going to make the biggest impact for the business, but equally for the podcaster as well.
Oh, I'm so glad you just said that, where you landed right there, because I find so many, well, not just entrepreneurs, but podcast guests of podcasts I've listened to, right? So many times they're there with the spotlight almost on themselves and their new book or their new whatever, and they never make that transition to the benefit of the audience. And as a podcast host, right, I'm always wanting my audience to benefit. That's why I bring people like you on. But when I guest on a podcast, my number one purpose is to add value to you and your audience. And when I do that properly, then the back end is I can connect with some people and serve some people down the road. But my primary aspect is to bless you, because I know when I do that, I'm going to get invited either back on yours or referred to another one. And it is, I love how you said it's that PR aspect. So many times we think PR is, magazines and press releases.
Yeah.
This is PR is podcast relationships. How about that?
Yeah, love it, love it. So just to give you an idea, so we do the PR aspect of the business. What I sort of lent into is the coaching element of what we do. So we work with our clients for them to be able to develop the skill sets, stuff I was talking about when I started my show, like finding their voice, finding ways to be able to talk and explain their expertise to add that value. So there's the coaching element, which we help all the way through the journey of working with them. And then there's the marketing side, which is their marketing channels that they currently have, how to use the assets of the video or the content for other promotional aspects, whether it's LinkedIn, TikTok, whether it's websites, whether it's email campaigns, newsletter campaigns. So we do that aspect as well, to be able to make sure that it's not just I'll go on a show and hope something happens. It's actually building up that content and those assets so that you can use them in multiple different places and multiple different ways.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that you do that, because how many times have we gone to a website or something and we see somebody and it says as seen on, ABC, NBC, or as seen on Oprah or Good Morning America. Guess what? I didn't get to see that episode. But the fact that it's there and maybe a link to it brings greater credibility. And people have to understand, Mark, and correct me if I'm wrong, being on the pod, what we're doing today, and when we launch this, dare I say, it's important, but it's a blip. Because what's really important is that longer promotion through all of those channels you talked about, all the social media channels, the LinkedIn, getting this on both your website and my website, the SEO that can be built there, all of that post interview promotion and marketing is huge to make podcasting really play off, right?
Exactly. And 100%. And that's what I think our clients don't necessarily walk into working with us. And obviously we are having these conversations with them, but they're actually surprised what I can. So, and especially evergreen content as well. You can, like, for example, I did a podcast interview that I thought worked really well with the host and the podcaster. I got the video, I repurposed it, created some shorts, and I'm still using that content because it worked really well with me. It was I added some value in that conversation. So there's clips that I still cycle back to every sort of 2 or 3 months on LinkedIn, and I put that in, and I'm like, look, I'm really proud of that. I know that that is adding value to my ideal client. I'm going to keep on using that. So evergreen content means that you can be found anytime. I still get episodes 4, 5, 6 years ago that gets some really good downloads. So having evergreen content is brilliant, but equally just making sure you've got things that you can promote yourself, videos, audio. People used to do audiograms. People don't tend to do them anymore because video is so important and so prominent now. It's sort of they've kind of dropped off. But yeah, 100%, you should be using that content constantly because that's your validation. We talk about credibility, visibility, and trust by using podcast guesting, and that is so impactful and so important. And that's what we build our business model on, is being able to provide that for our clients.
Absolutely. Visibility, credibility, and trust, man. That sounds right along the lines. You do it in podcasting. I do it through book creation. It's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
A book and a podcast are channels through which you communicate. What I love about both of these channels is they're highly engaging and they're really one-on-one. Because when people listen to a podcast, I usually listen to them by myself.
Yeah.
When I read a book, I'm reading it by myself. And you just multiply that by however many people. So it's a very intimate way to build relationships with your
100%.
guest, but also take that content out. The evergreen content, here's I want to camp on that for just a second. When you were talking about that, I was thinking back to, okay, you're in London. I think I got the right country and the right artist. The Rolling Stones were back from your area,
Yeah,
right?
they were. Yeah.
Okay, the Rolling Stones. They were around for a few years, but they
They've,
have
they've
some
been they've been around a half decade or
like
so.
like
Yeah,
50 or so years.
50 or so years.
But in all of the songs that they've created,
Yeah.
there are a few that have really positioned them and made a name for them.
Yep.
And that is what I would say is their core content. Every concert, it's sung. Every radio
Yeah.
station, and that's the same thing from a business owner perspective. When you can think of yourselves as Mick Jagger, okay? But you have
Yeah.
core content that needs to be repeated over and over and over until you get, I'm sure Mick Jagger got sick and tired of singing the same song.
Yeah.
But the audience never got tired of it because the audience over 50 years changed. The same thing happens in podcasting, right?
And just think of this. So I love the analogy and sort of Mick Jagger singing the songs when he was 20 years old and now he's 70 plus or whatever he is, still singing the same songs. But yes, you go to those concerts because you want to hear the greatest hits. They're the biggest hits. They're the ones that you want to do. The way that we've sort of evolved this idea of being able to have evergreen content and being able to repurpose it and place it in lots of different places is, and you'll know this as a marketing guy, we used to have sort of like 7, 8 touch points that you needed before someone bought. Now I read relatively like earlier this year, it's now 14, 15, up to maybe 20 touch points.
Yeah.
So we have to, as business owners, we have to work a lot harder to be able to repeat those messages, talk to people about those avenues, those values, the added value that you give.
Yeah.
And you need to keep on doing it in different ways and interesting ways that just repeat the message, because people are distracted. And this is why I love podcasting and podcast guesting, is because most of the time when people are listening to podcasts, they're not distracted. They're at the gym, they're walking the dog, they're cooking, they're going for a walk generally, they're commuting. And as you said, it's an intimate arrangement having them in your ears. But it's something that, if as long as you are reiterating, repeating what you're saying and being able to do that upon multiple different ways, then you have a greater likelihood of people actually wanting to buy from you. Because unfortunately, when it comes to advertising and promotion, it is a numbers game. You do need to hit those touch points before people are willing to move forward with you.
Absolutely. And a couple thoughts there. Consistency over time is one of my marketing philosophies. Mick
Brilliant.
Jagger's been very consistent over time. A
Yeah.
business owner needs to, with the same message over and over. but also credibility and trust. Trust, I believe, is a factor of time. How much
Yeah,
time I spend with you determines if I trust you or not. Podcasting is a great way. I think people
amazing.
binge podcasts when they're interested in that person. They spend hours before. I mean, before you came onto this podcast, Mark. You spent time with me through the videos that I sent you
Yeah,
and all of that to know kind of who is this dude that I'm going to be talking to. You got a feel for me, and we
yeah.
hopped on and we had a great conversation. But I do that on purpose because I want you to spend time with me before we ever meet. Podcasting is a phenomenal way to do that. Plus, it's your voice.
But the important thing is the depth of conversation that you have on a podcast.
Yes.
So when you look at other PR, pure PR agencies, they might get you on breakfast television, American breakfast television. You're like, this is my shot. You've got 3 minutes for a conversation about something trending in the news.
Right.
Why I love podcasting as the medium is often it's deep conversations, understanding your journey, understanding your business, understanding what inspires you. Maybe it's the books that you've read, maybe it's the podcast you listen to, being able to understand. So even you mentioning Mick Jagger and the Rolling Stones, now I've got a window into that I'm guessing that you like the Rolling Stones, and then
Yeah.
it thinks of you got the Beatles and you've got all those sort of music. So that's given me something like into you. So next time we speak, I might bring it up. So it's that depth of conversation that you get on shows, whether they're 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. 90 minutes is usually the max when it comes to
Yeah.
shows. Most shows are no longer than 60 minutes. But it, like, you think about it, it's like you're sitting in the coffee shop having a deep conversation with someone about your business. And what
Yeah.
a fantastic, we all love to go to the pub or go to the coffee shop and sit there and have a deep conversation with someone. And so I think that's why it works so well. And that's why it's a growing medium. It's been described as mainstream now with 70, I think it's 74% of Americans regularly listening to podcasts. So it's a growing medium as well. It's ripe and primed for people to either start their own show or use podcast guesting as a way to get that access.
Absolutely. And podcast guesting is great because you're not having to spend the time to curate an audience. Somebody else has already curated an audience that's perfect. It's a perfect match for
Yes.
you. You come on, experts get interviewed. So when
Yeah.
you come on, you have the trust of the host. They're setting you up to share with an audience that could be ripe for you. And when you do it right and show up well and then have the follow-up promotion, it really becomes a revenue stream for your business. Now, a lot of business owners, or they're hearing this, they're excited. They're like, yeah, that's really cool. And then they go, I don't have a clue what to do, how to do it, make all this happen because it sounds like a lot of work. Mark, you guys take care of like all of that, right?
Yeah. We do it all. We do it all. We do the full turnkey solution. As I said, it's breaking down the PR. We do the outreach. We do the connection. We do the bio. We get you on the shows. I'll work with you to make sure that you are ready and primed to be on the shows. And then after the podcast has been released, we then work with you how to get that that longevity of using your show appearances to be able to promote your business, your product, or your service.
And I'll put a plug in here because a lot of business owners are, posting on social media, right? I've got to post 3 times a day, or I got to post this and I got to post that, but there's no purpose behind their posting.
Yes.
They're posting about the post cereal they ate this morning. I really don't care. But when you do it this way, when you let Mark and his team take your podcast, put you on the right platforms, and teach you or do for you that back end posting, now you've got a strategy around podcasting, around promotion, and around profit that can really grow your business. And it doesn't have to take 9 or 12 months. It can happen pretty quickly because Mark and his team have this Rolodex, this network of podcast hosts who are quite honestly looking for great guests. That's
Oh,
one of the hardest
100%.
things.
Yeah. As a podcast host myself, to get really good clients, really good guests on shows can be a challenge, especially Like we were talking before we came on about the longevity. Like you've been doing it for 4 years, I've been doing it for 8 years, and it's really, there aren't many of us that have been doing it this long.
That's right.
But there are some really great shows in business and entrepreneurship specifically, but also technology, also marketing, digital marketing. We've worked with these people for a long time, and they know that we bring them quality clients, quality
Right.
guests on their show. So they now trust us that we can bring quality guests on their show. And as you said, all of this is relationships. Everything in business is based on relationship building, whether it's a one-off conversation or you know them for the rest of your life. There is an opportunity here to be able to build long-term relationship building, even with rapport with hosts, which is something we
Right.
talk about on the kickoff call, is just being open minded that you don't know what might happen with that relationship if you spend time and put effort into it. And that again is a very underrated thing
Yeah.
to be to you not use it, but be able to see that as an opportunity for you to be able to build another relationship in your network that might be able to refer people to you, might collaborate, partnership, start a business with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that podcast host is talking to at least one person a week. If you're
Yep.
doing a weekly podcast, maybe more. So you become a key influencer. People are listening to you, promoting you, and to be connected with somebody like that who has your core audience, your target audience, they
Mm.
probably know a couple other people who do podcasts with your target audience. And
Yep.
so it's the relationship aspect of coming to give, to serve, and to find out, okay, wow, maybe after the podcast, maybe we can have another conversation and talk about how we could promote each other apart. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Most of the time, people go, "Yeah, I'd be all over that." It's not rocket science, folks.
It's a brilliant strategy, Michael. I think we're both slightly biased on
Mm,
the value of it, but yeah, no, we're living it, we're experiencing it, we're doing it every single day,
yeah,
and I think it the fact that it's became a mainstream medium.
yeah,
Anyone that's listening and thinking, well, it's still quite marginalized, it's only
yeah,
young people or something like that, it's really not. And I think the election in the US gave it an additional boost, an additional twist with the exposure that certain shows had through that period, that really cemented it as one of the go-to ways of being able to have deep value adding conversations. And it's recorded and it's shared, and it's a fantastic way of being able to build an audience, to build a following. And what we all want in most cases is get some clients as well.
absolutely. Yeah, we're all trying to find more clients and all of that. And the clients come through trust. Trust comes through time. Time comes through podcasting. So become a guest on other people's podcasts. It's a phenomenal way to do it. And the best part is when you work with Mark and his team, it just shows up on your calendar. You get invited. And after you're invited, this is the cool thing, Mark, that you're not even talking about. After one of your clients gets invited to 2 or 3 or 4 podcasts, it does something internally to that person. They start realizing, wow, people do want to hear what I say. They
Yeah,
become better communicators and it bolsters their
100%.
confidence, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's a great way of being able to work out sales strategies in
Yes.
how you're communicating them, because you might try a few different ways of doing it on different podcasts, and you'll work out the best communication ways of being able to say an elevator pitch, going deep into a particular aspect of your service or product that you've got, being able to think about how you're communicating that to your ideal client. It is a phenomenal way of, and this is why I started as a host. It's a phenomenal way of being able to craft your messages that are then being tested as well on shows as well.
That's right.
Like you think about the stand-up comedian, they always write their jokes and then they'll pitch it to
Yeah.
smaller audiences to refine it. Now
Yep.
you're getting this access, this whole methodology that stand-ups have been doing for decades and decades. You're actually perfecting your sales pitch, and that can help with marketing, sales, all aspects, promotions, advertising, and being able to practice it, hone it, perfect it. And podcast guesting is a great way of being able to do that.
It is. So Mark, you and I can talk really for hours on this, I'm pretty sure, because we're both pretty passionate about it. How can somebody who's listening to me find you, your company? Where's the next best step for them to really understanding a little bit more to go, okay, this sounds really cool. What else do I need to know? Where would they
So
go?
you can, so you can either go to podcastintroduction.com and have a look at the website and maybe set up a call there, or I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn. When you're connecting with me, just drop me a note and say that you've come from Michael's podcast. That would be fantastic, so I can let Michael know if anyone actually reach out, like when people reach out to me from this show. And I'm very happy to set up a call, have a conversation, see if this is something that you might be interested in exploring with us.
Awesome. And I'll drop those links in the show notes, along with the link to Business Growth Talks, Mark's podcast, because you want to listen to him, because not only are you going to enjoy the conversations that he has with his guests, but you're going to learn a little bit more. And as he models what he teaches you, you're going to go, oh, that's what he's doing. Okay, I'm in. And so listen to his podcast, check him out on LinkedIn, reach out and have a conversation, because if you are not using podcasting as a strategy, a business growth strategy, dare I say, you're leaving money on the table in one way or another. And it doesn't take, the number one objection, Mark, I hear from business owners when it comes around podcasting is, I don't have the time.
That's
And
what
I'm
I'm here
like,
for.
dude, seriously, if you've got an hour a week, an hour a month, I don't even know what, but it doesn't take that
So we
long.
kind of do one every 2 weeks is a lot of the
Beautiful.
regularity. Now, obviously you design it around your schedule,
Yeah.
but we sort of like one every 2 weeks works very well for business owners, because it
Yeah.
means you can run your business, but still you're getting that exposure and you're getting that those
Yeah.
assets that you can use.
So stop making excuses and make a connection to Mark Hayward, and talk about how you can get on some more podcasts. So Mark, thank you for being here, talking about podcast introductions, how it can be beneficial to business, how simple you and your team make it for business owners. So it's been a joy to have you on here, brother.
Thank you, Michael. Been an absolute pleasure. Been great fun. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Well, you are welcome. Thank you for listening to Experts Speak. Tune in again next week for another great episode. Take care. God bless.